Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. My name is Tiffany Bryant Jackson, the education manager here at Three Bone Theater. And today we have our wonderful director of our next show, Glynnis O'Donoghue, who will be directing Electricidad coming in August. Hi, Glynnis.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. We're going to talk just a little bit about you getting the script in hand, getting to know the script, and kind of your take on getting to bring the second part of the trilogy to life here in Charlotte. So tell us about the moment you were approached about this script and your initial thoughts of getting to lead this show.
Well, it was when I read this show, it was very exciting. That was the first impression I got when I read the trilogy, and Electricidad in particular kind of jumped out to me as having these really theatrical, dramatic moments. There's a lot of Greek choral moments that happen in this show, and just really opportunity to play with actors, play with design. And I could see pieces of it as I was as I was reading it, and seeing these really bright moments and opportunities for some just interesting storytelling. So there's that piece, how it struck me as a piece of theater. And then also reading a show and getting to do a show that is, the play is in English, but I'd say it's probably 10% Spanish. And just getting to tell a story that is about a Latino community. I've been in the game for about 2 decades now, and this is the first show that I've ever had the opportunity to be a part of, full production that is telling a story about an inherently Latino community that's part of the story, an integral part of the story. And so, part of me is sad that this is my first opportunity, but so
Mhm.
excited that it's finally here. So yeah.
Yes, I'm happy. And for those of you who've been with us a little while, this is our second into the trilogy. We did the first show last season when we did Medea, and now we are doing Electricidad. So I want to note that it's wonderful to see the growth in who shows up for our auditions between that first show and this show, because it means that people in the Latinx community are like, oh wait,
Mhm.
it is truly a show for us. We should be present and audition and be there. And I love seeing the sheer amount of growth in individuals coming out. So tell me, at its core, it is about the Cholo community, but it's about a system, right? A system that someone is born into and navigating that system. And even though it's based in that community in Los Angeles, do you think our audiences can really get into it here in Charlotte?
100%. I think um, something that Alfaro is trying to do, that the Greeks were trying to do with their storytelling, is really hold a mirror to the audience and ask a question of the audience. And at its core, yes, it's this amazing Latino community, the Cholo community, but it's really a human story, about forgiveness and revenge. Can you forgive someone? And also something that Alfaro does that it's really interesting to me and I love about his work is pushing the audience to question, how do we have empathy for people who are victims of systems, right? So in the Greeks telling of this story, they're the gods that, this
Hmm.
is fate. I forget the Greek word, for the concept of, you are destined to do this. And
Hmm.
in this play, there are some allusions to gods, but that push, that force, isn't represented as a god so much as, this system, this cycle, this legacy of violence and abuse, and kind of what it yields, and can we escape it? Um, so yeah, that's really an interesting piece of this whole story.
Yeah, I do love the idea of it is a mirror. While we are learning and diving into a specific community, it is also a mirror to examine your own community and your own systems and
Mhm.
see, oh, wait, am I in this cycle or am I coming out of the cycle? What does that look like? Also, do I now have empathy for understanding people that I just assumed, right? I just assumed that was a gang. And I didn't think
Mhm.
anything of it. I didn't think anything of a system. Now I'm learning a little bit more. I am hoping that the show encourages people to research the history of how the Cholo culture became a culture and what that is like. So they kind of grasp, but not everything is born out of, I just woke up and decided to be violent today.
Yeah,
The end,
right.
right? How is that system created? And I think this show does a good job of saying it doesn't necessarily say the system is right or wrong. It just
Hmm.
shows you here's the side of the system, here's a way out, here's a way to stay in.
Yeah.
Every character makes a different choice, and they live with their choices.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our actors, after our read through, um, she had a great reflection, and we were talking about the show, and she said it shows you that humans, like as animals, if we don't have support, whether that comes from you know, funding or just positive systems in place, like we will create them. And so it's
Hmm.
this, thing that we all do as humans to create some system of support. And in some cases, is it a healthy system? Is it, you know, um, sustainable? No, but it's filling a void that, as a larger human global community, I would like to think that we, you know, should be providing that support and that net, but in the absence of it, something will fill that void. And it's, this twisted becomes like a twisted version of love and family. And
Hmm.
we were doing scene work last night, and it's really interesting to see the characters who, not having just any context, not understanding a different way of life, but like they want it so badly, right? But they just can't
Right.
articulate what that is, that they're that what that need is.
Great. Now tell me, how have rehearsals been? How has it been for you as a director coming in to this Latinx space that you get to create and mold and shape with other people with other cultural backgrounds similar? How does that feel for you?
It's amazing. I have the best cast. I think every director says that, but it's truly such a um, warm, loving cast, and I think they're all aware of what an opportunity this is and how they're all so eager and excited to tell this story for Charlotte. Um, And it's really, it's funny because before I'm half Peruvian, that's my Latino background, and I had this like anxiety of, well, I'm not Chicano, I'm not Mexican, because this story is based in
Hmm.
that kind of a culture. And, in in 10 more years, like like you said about talent coming out, I think we could cast an exclusively Mexican cast. I think the talent is there and it's growing in Charlotte. But as through auditions and in this rehearsal room, we have a mix of different Latino backgrounds and experiences. And it was something I was nervous about, but I'm realizing that, moving towards that fear and realizing it's such a gift and a blessing because everyone is able to contribute different perspectives and stories and just different, context and background of how our families came to be here. And it's just a really rich room. And also just love hearing Spanish and getting to speak Spanish. And it's just lovely.
I love it. I love the connections between the culture and the Greek tragedy, right? The Greek chorus is just the neighborhood ladies, right? I
Mm-hmm.
love watching that because we all have our own Greek choruses in your neighborhood. Like
Yeah.
you have it in your neighborhood. You have the ladies on the porch. But to see it take on this Latin flair and their mix of using Spanish language and English language as they are going through the story, it is it's beautiful to see. We got to see a sneak peek recently, and I obviously got to sit in on the read through, which was wonderful to sit in, not only watching the words come to life and everyone exploring, but I hung out during reflection time because I just love soaking it up.
Hmm.
And so I was there on Zoom and they were like, "Are you still here?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm soaking up the reflections because for me, I love hearing it because
Yeah.
one is really thinking about culture and how that plays in the show, and they're coming to new realizations. And I think all of that's going to add to such a beautiful piece coming.
Absolutely.
Now, this is my go-to question for everyone. You can marinate for a second, but no one gets to escape it.
Okay.
Someone is coming to the show and they're going to take in this for the first time.
Hmm.
What do you want them to go home with?
Ooh, I mean, I always want somebody to come to the theater and be changed, right? So, and have a very present human experience. I want, especially in the world that we live in today, I want somebody to go into the space and be fully present in the moment. I'm a big believer in, the audience is the last cast member of the show that arrives, and there is a duty not to get like, I don't want to drive people away from theater. But I do think there's a part that the audience plays, and our show won't be complete until they're there. So I really want somebody who's come to see Electricidad feel like they were part of telling a story and they witnessed something. Um, and with tragedy in particular, there's this feeling like for me, it happens in my chest of, if they had just done, if this just one thing hadn't happened, because we all know when we go to see a tragedy how it's going to end generally, right? Even if we're not familiar with the story, we know that our protagonist is not making it out without completing this cycle, this destiny. Um, and so I would really love people to go through the experience of being on that emotional journey and still having hope that it could be different, which is I don't know if that's like torturous of me, but I really want them to have that experience of being part of the show and taking that full journey of wanting it to be different and then holding that feeling and taking it and sitting with it, right? How could it be different? What made this inevitable? Is it inevitable, right? I think the Greeks wanted there to be questions at the end of the show. I think Alfaro wants there to be questions at the end of the show.
Mhm.
So I want people to go home with a lot of questions in their head, maybe more confused, maybe more upset than when they got there, but also having, experienced something special, which
I like that. Questions for sure. Which is the goal? We do say that we are a catalyst for conversation here at Three Bone, and that is the goal with every show. But I do think, in particular, this trilogy as a whole has you thinking about each show, the people in each show, how each of these scenarios plays out, how each of these people are your neighbors.
Mhm.
And also lends us to see a human experience outside of our own culture if we are not in that culture, which I think we all need in the world right now. We need to see everyone. We need to see everyone's stories. So I'm going to add that I want everyone to go home and really examine who they know and what they're witnessing around them and how they can be a part of systems that give people choices. That would be my that would be my go-to. But this is the one time in the YouTube before we say goodbye, I warn everyone, get your tickets now. It will sell.
Hmm.
Some people believe me and are good to go. Some people don't, and then come and say, "Oh man, I was hoping to get in." Don't be that person. Show opens August 15th, runs through the 31st. You got 3 weekends and no excuses not to see the show. If you've seen the first one, you definitely need to finish the trilogy, so you need to see this one and next year. If you haven't seen the first one, that's also okay. Jump in here, find one of us after the show, and we'll fill you in on the first one. There's also two actors who were in the first show of the trilogy in your show. So I love to see three. There are three.
Yeah,
So I love that also that they came back to audition and wanted to be a part of the next story as well. Thank you,
yeah.
Glynis, for your time today. I'm
Thank
excited
you.
about seeing the final product of your show, and I'm excited for everyone to really start talking and getting to know other cultures and diving in. So I appreciate you, everybody. I've already warned you. Catch the show August 15th. All right.
Thank
See you
you.
later, friends.
Bye.